Joining me today is another Rick Ventura of Riot Act. Hey, thanks for taking the time to join me today.
Hey, you're welcome. My pleasure.
Hey, I want to talk about your new album and the tour. But first, I want to go back a little bit because you were there at the beginning before everything, before what Riot Act is today, which was Riot.
Sure.
And back in 1977, when Rock City was released, it didn't really get the recognition that it deserved. I mean, do you think it was part of the scene at that time? Or I just wanted to get your feelings on that.
Yeah, I don't think so. I was around the band that time. I wasn't on the album, but I was around and watched what was going down. I mean, that period, coming out of disco and it was a heavy punk scene in New York. I mean, that was the focus. So it was punk, and the kind of music the band was playing was really, it's kind of left field. So that it's possible that that's why it didn't do as well as it could have. And it was a label that the producers had it was their own label. So it was a struggle. Yeah. So it was a struggle getting it distributed. And like I said, I guess the focus just wasn't on that music at that time.
I mean, but then, you came out, Narita came out after that.
Right.
You had a big turnover, you started, some of the players started to leave, you know what I mean? So, Phil left, Lou left. And it still, at that point, it didn't seem like the band was, moving, forward, even though the music was solid. Do you think maybe the turnover was a big issue, or I mean, what was going on in the mind here at that time after the second album?
Well, I knew Mark Reale, and his goal was just, I guess, to find the perfect band, which I don't know if that's feasible. On the second album, Lou was gone. I came into the fold. But then, Jimmy, the bass player, and Peter, the drummer, they were gone after that. So there was something that that wasn't there for Mark. I guess he wasn't hearing certain things. But there's a few other issues there. There's some political issues involved too, why some members didn't stay in the band. So it's a combination of those two. But it seemed with Fire Down Under, we had the right chemistry, since Mark and Guy and myself were there from Narita. Getting Kip and Sandy on bass and drums, it was just new blood, and they were all eager to do it, and they were into the band, and it was just a good chemistry. That's really important. And Mark liked the way they played, and we just felt really comfortable together with that lineup. Not that the other lineups were bad. It's just that sometimes Mark had an issue with the player, and after a while, that player was gone.
I have to agree. Fire Down Under was an incredible album. In fact, that was my first introduction to Riot. Remember those record things you used to get in the mail? For a penny, you get 10 records as long as you remember those things.
Yeah.
And sure. But this came about. You can't really see the album too well, but it's the Fire Down Under album. I actually still have it.
Mm-hmm.
But then, there was, after that, there was, a split up and breakup and all that. And then, Riot V, came about. You played with them for a little bit, but not very long. Was it just wasn't feeling it, or?
Well, it was just a guest, a spot, really. After my period with Riot was over, after Restless Breed with Red and that, it was just, things were just changing, and just business-wise, it was going downhill. So, I mean, years later, I just can continue. I was totally really up with everything at that point. Just, I continued playing, doing projects, but it was like, it was such a depressing period because we put so much time and effort into the band all those years. And we should have been big. I mean, we were right on the cusp of breaking big. We were touring with Sabbath, Rush on the Moving Pictures tour. I mean, we had some great tours, and the band always went over great. But then, for years later, I sort of just forgot about Riot, and it would always come back to me. I'd run into somebody and say, "Hey, you're Rick. You were in Riot, man. You guys were amazing. What a great! You should have made it so big." So I would constantly hear that. It was just like, wow, it's never going to go away. Then I'd hear stories that bands like Metallica were influenced. Lars, the drummer, Lars loved Riot. I've seen him with Riot shirts, and the stuff would just appear. And then I think it was maybe 20. I forgot what year it is. It's maybe 13, 14, whatever. Riot were going to play in Manhattan at BB King's, and Mark was the only original member there. Said I was going to go there and surprise him. So I thought it'd be so cool. We spoke on the phone a few times about getting the original lineup together, and trying to do something. So when it was time for the gig, he was very ill, and he didn't do the gig because he passed away.
Right.
So the guys from Riot V, they decided to call it Riot V after Mark was gone, So they called me up and said, "You want to come and play a tune?" And I was like, "Oh, wow. I didn't play a Riot song in like 30 something years. It just erased it, So I went there and I played 2 songs, and it was like, wow, it was such a blast. And afterwards, there were a bunch of people lined up to greet me. They were in shock. They said that we came to see the band, and never in a million years we'd have thought that we'd see you playing it. And I was like blown away. I was really touched. It just made me start thinking, wow, there's still something there. Then a few years later, actually, maybe not that much later, Lou and I guested with them again at another gig in Brooklyn. So it was really a good response. And then Lou was getting interested in doing something with me, so he would call me, and I was, boy, I don't know if I want to do this, Lou. It was that type of thing.
The great debate, huh?
Yeah, and trying to recreate something, and I just blew it off. And then Riot 5, they asked me to go to Japan and play the Loud Park Festival, which is a huge festival they have there like every year. And we performed the Fire Down Under album. So that was really, I guess, an eye-opener for me, because when we were there, the Japanese fans they loved Riot. And I remember being followed around a hotel with people with the early albums, wanting me to sign their albums. And it was like, wow, this is really something. So it started to snowball. It just started to happen that Lou and I got together and formed Riot Act.
And here we are today.
Yeah,
and the new album, Closer to the Flame.
Yeah,
fantastic new album. Unfortunately, we had another member we lost. Lou, I think, passed away. Correct?
Yeah, 2 years ago this month. We had played at the Heavy Metal Hall of Fame. We performed 2 Riot songs there. The only time you'll get to see us playing together with Lou as Riot Act for the first and last time, actually. It's on Amazon Prime, actually, that show. So if you want to get a look at that, you'll see the only performance of Lou and I playing together. After so many years of knowing each other, we finally get together, 2 songs, and luckily did lose on the EP. There's a bonus EP coming out with the Closer to the Flame. But yeah, and then it was, and then we lost Lou. It's just, I'm laughing because it's just so hard to believe that this happened. Yeah.
But this album, Closer to Flame, it seems it's back to the cohesiveness that you guys found back. We talked about Fire Down Under. Did you get the same feeling, or was it just more of a?
I don't. Well, it was weird when we were recording the bonus CD of the old Riot tracks. The record company wanted to hear us perform some Riot songs. They wanted to know that, hey, these guys can still have it. So that's initially how we recorded. Why we recorded the Riot tunes, the older Riot tunes. And it just brought new life into the songs because the recordings on the very early albums kind of subpar, in my opinion. So now they sound refreshed and powerful, and it's a lot of energy. But I was always focused on originals. That was my whole deal. When I get to Lou, I said, I really want to do originals. Yeah, we'll play some old Riot songs. People want to hear it, but my goal is just to play originals. And that's what we started to do during the pandemic. I had a lot of material. I sent it to a vocalist, Don Chafin, and he just did a tremendous job on the tunes. He just loved it. He loved it. And I would never hear what he was doing because I'd work at home. He'd work at home. So I'd send him and the band demos and send him like a dozen tunes. He'd write back, keep sending me more. So I kept on sending him. He goes, wait to hear this. And, he would never send me snippets. So I never knew. It's like, what are you doing? I want to hear it, So then finally we got into the studio. Had to be careful because of COVID and people getting sick and dropping around us. Like it was just insane, period. But the album came together. It was just, we wanted to play so bad. We hadn't played in 2 years. And we just had so many ideas, and it just came together. The songs were just coming out, and finish one song and go, oh, wow. It's like, I have this riff. Let's work on this now. And we work on parts. And we just got on a roll. We really got on a roll and got 10 songs on a record. And I think it's really captures the spirit of a hard rock and roll band, which Riot was, and that's just essentially what I'm into and what I like to play. It's always been so.
Yeah, now you have a tour you're heading out on, right?
Yeah, in August, the end of August, we're going to England with Lillian Axe for a few shows there. Then we're going to Spain. And there's talk of dates in the States with Raven, September, October. So things are finally happening, for quite a while. Everything in Europe, there'd be a tour and then it was canceled because somebody would get COVID. But things seem to be a bit better. So hopefully it stays like this and we get more dates. But we're really excited because we haven't played in so long. Yeah, you can check riotactband.com for all the latest and greatest info. We're working on a new video right now. Actually, it's be out coincide with the album. The album comes out April 15th in the States, April 1st in Europe. And so we're really excited. I can't wait till the album hits and we get to play again and really enjoy what we're doing.
Well, Rick, I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me.
Yeah, it's a real pleasure.